Jasper Leake is the Australian's audio lead, and he works with me here on the front, particularly on these weekend culture episodes. Jasper, you are a very chilled out dude. I don't often see you lose it. But one moment in the past year when I have seen you rattled is when we were doing a great, actually, AI boot camp here at work. We were learning all about the AI tools that can help us do our journalism. One of them is called Notebook LM. It's Google's large language model, which basically means it's a generative tool, generative artificial intelligence that can write things for you. And the way we use it here at News is that we might upload a very long research report or 10 council meeting minutes, say, or Hansard from an entire day, and ask it to analyse that text for us, give us some dot points that might help us in researching a story. We never actually publish anything that Notebook LM spits out for us, but it's useful in helping us get our heads around a concept so that we can then do the journalism to check out what it's telling us. And the thing that got you riled up was Notebook LM has an audio summary feature. What is that? And why did it annoy you?
Well, Notebook LM has an audio overview feature that is essentially the text-to-voice component of Notebook LM. A handy tool for getting information on the go. So, we at The Australian use text-to-audio technology in our articles sometimes where you can which is a feature I like. It's something handy for, if you're driving somewhere and you really want to read that feature, but you don't have the 20 minutes to set aside to actually sit there and read it, you can hit play and you can listen to it on the go.
And this is what it sounds like.
Tony Blair was a better politician than a husband, says wife Sherry. Tony Blair made a better politician than a husband and has never bought his wife flowers, Sherry Blair has said.
So it's an audio reading out of this newspaper story. And while your hands are full or you're cooking or you're driving, you can read the paper.
That's right. That's a great use of that particular technology. But what Notebook LM does is it creates what's called an audio overview, which is a simulation of a podcast. You can upload a huge amount of information to Notebook LM, and instead of sitting there and sifting through it all yourself, you can say, hey, create me a 10-minute podcast on everything that I've just uploaded. And the end result is a sort of an engaging, easy to listen to two-host podcast on the theme of your choice.
So you might upload all day of Hansard, and say, you can tell Notebook LM, give me 5 dot points about big things that happened today. And it could give you 5 dot points, or it could give you a 10-minute audio summary, which would be these two fake podcast hosts discussing the concepts that were in Hansard in the material that you've uploaded.
That's right. And this technology, we're seeing it outside of Notebook LM now, and they all sort of get advertised in the same way, which is essentially a podcast created with the click of a button. I think there's a commonly held belief that what we're doing is quite easy, that you can essentially just throw a couple of microphones up, you hit record, and then bang, you've got your podcast. And there are successful podcasts that follow that very basic formula. Though what we try to do at The Australian is something a bit more polished and a little bit more involved.
There's two aspects to the way we pull our podcast together. First, we do the journalism, which is reporting, writing, fact-checking, getting things legal through our lawyers. And then it comes to the audio production and polishing. That means putting all the audio together and then making it sound good. What are the tasks involved in making it sound good?
They're always the same, regardless of whether it's a 15-minute news podcast or a 90-minute episode of a Headley Thomas podcast. A huge chunk of my time every day is spent just cleaning audio. And that is removing all the gross mouth sounds that nobody really wants to listen to. It's essentially like photoshopping or, retouching audio. We remove mouth clicks, we remove plosives, we'll turn breaths down, and these tasks add up because, in 15 minutes of audio, there's a lot of clicks and there's a lot of plosives and a lot of loud breaths and there's a lot of false starts and there's a lot of semi-complete thoughts that need to kind of be edited down into a way that they can be better understood by an audience. There are a lot of moving parts and it's not an easy job. But I have a lot of pride in doing these things in the way that I think they should be done.
Yeah, I hear a lot of podcasts where they've prioritised rawness, I suppose. And it is just two people sitting in front of microphones, chatting away. And I find them really hard to listen to. They've got their mouths way too close to the microphone. Every P sounds like a mini explosion in your ears.
Yes.
There's, as you say, yucky mouth sounds going on.
Yeah.
We have the luxury of spending more time. And one of your rules of thumb, which our whole team abides by, is that 5 minutes of published audio will take roughly an hour in terms of cleaning and polishing to make it sound as good as we want it to here at The Australian.
That's right. And the idea, of course, is that the audience would never even notice. And there is a bit of a sleight of hand going on sometimes when you see a show that looks very casual and informal and there's just two people having a chat. But, it's not like it just so happens to sound really clean and balanced and there are no gross mouth sounds. It's like the illusion is that it's just this kind of quick and easy thing that's been thrown together. But there is always a lot of work that then happens on the back end to kind of create that illusion.
So Jasper, you did a bit of an experiment with Notebook LM and it involved being on the treadmill at the gym.
Yes. Yes.
What happened?
So I was at the gym recently and I was sick of the music in my playlists. And I think what I was wanting to listen to doesn't really exist. I wanted to listen to a short sort of 10 to 15 minute episode on the town where I live. So I thought, well, this could be a perfect opportunity to take Notebook LM for a spin. As you said before, Notebook LM doesn't scan the internet for its information. It only responds to information that you give it. Understanding that Notebook LM is a walled garden and that it wasn't just going to create a script out of nowhere. I went to Google's generative AI tool called Gemini to create a script for me. So I went to Gemini and the prompt I gave it was pretty embarrassing in hindsight, but it was something like, I want a short podcast on North Katoomba. Any facts that you can share with me? Is it low income? Go. And Gemini created a script for me that it only took Gemini a matter of seconds really to whip up a script. And then I copied and pasted that script into Notebook LM, hit the audio overview feature, and within a couple of minutes I had my podcast.
Let's have a listen.
Okay.
I love how you did this on the treadmill, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Were you running?
I was, yeah. I almost fell off.
It must be quite a slow jog. Speaking as a slow jogger myself.
Oh, here we go.
Welcome back to the deep dive. If you've ever been to the Blue Mountains, you know that feeling, that damp, cool air, the smell of eucalyptus, and just the sheer scale of it all.
It's breathtaking.
It really is. And we're up here 1,000 meters above sea level in Katoomba, which most people know for, the postcard view.
The Three Sisters, the cliff walks.
Exactly, the Carrington Hotel. But that whole picture, that entire tourist world, it's pretty much all on one side of the train tracks, South Katoomba.
And that's why today we're actually turning our backs on those cliffs.
Okay.
We are, physically crossing the railway line to dive into the story of North Katoomba.
The other side of the tracks, literally.
Literally, our whole mission here is to look at the sources that tell this this tale of two cities that really defines the community.
I'm going to stop it there because I find that bit really interesting, especially the end where you hear the female voice kind of pause and she says, and then it's almost like she's checking her notes or something to reference what they're about to speak about on this podcast. But it's like, of course, there are no notes. This whole thing is a simulation. It's quite eerie.
It is.
I hate it.
I hate it too.
It feels so fake. To me, it's a gimmick that doesn't really have much value nested within a product that has immense value.
So there's a huge convenience opportunity here where you wanted something very niche and very bespoke about North Katoomba to listen to while you're on the treadmill in North Katoomba.
Yes, yes.
You got these two robots to talk about it for you.
Yeah.
And then they pretended to be humans.
That's right. I think my preference would be if I'm going to go to a sort of an artificial product like this, my preference would be to have the AI version of that.
To have it sound artificial.
To have it sound artificial.
I did my own experiment with Notebook LM. I had to do some pre-reading for a meeting. I uploaded the documents into Notebook LM. I got it to give me an audio summary, a little podcast episode, and I listened to that while I did Pilates in my living room before I went to the meeting.
Yeah.
I then thought, wow, that was sort of alarmingly warm and chatty. But I wonder what it's like with some confronting material. So I went and downloaded the charter of Hamas, which is out there on the internet. It's not a secret. It's all about what Hamas stands for. And I was hoping that the robots would take that same kind of chummy tone. But actually it disappointed me by taking quite an appropriate tone.
And our mission here, as always, is just to understand what the source material says, especially with something this politically charged.
Yeah, absolutely. We're just extracting the key ideas from this specific document, impartially, just helping you get informed about what's actually in it. We're reporting, not endorsing anything here.
So let's jump right in. How does the charter define itself? What's the fundamental identity it lays out for Hamas?
Well, it identifies Hamas as a Palestinian movement, and crucially, it says its guidelines are drawn entirely from Islam.
Entirely from Islam?
Yes. And it explicitly states it's a wing of the Muslim Brotherhood, which it calls a world organization.
Okay. So
interesting.
So, yeah, again, with the ums and the ahs and the hesitations and the checking of the notes.
Yes.
It's pretending to be considering this information. So while it's able to recognise that this is confronting material or it's at least very serious, it's not appropriate to joke, it is still, I find the fake humanity really depressing.
Yes. Yeah, I do too. The big difference with your podcast and mine was that I uploaded a script, copied and pasted from Google's Gemini, that had been compiled using various bits of information from the web. I didn't check any of that information before it went into Notebook LM. I just asked for a script, it gave me a script, and I copied and pasted it into Notebook LM and said, give me a podcast. Bearing in mind, I asked it for a podcast on the town where I live, which is North Katoomba. The first thing that the host started to talk about was a brief history of the Gully. It was an Indigenous settlement in Katoomba, home to quite a proud Indigenous community, that were ultimately moved off their land when a decision was made to build a racetrack in the middle of the Gully. The racetrack was ultimately a bust, and the whole thing really just amounts to a sad chapter in Katoomba's history.
This must have made the robots sad.
Well, yeah, they were very empathetic.
Should we hear a bit of it?
Yeah, sure.
Hear a bit of the robots being sad?
Yeah.
What happened?
A group of local businessmen decided Katoomba needed a big modern attraction, not just lookouts. They wanted something loud. They wanted a racing circuit.
And they chose the Gully.
They chose the Gully. The irony, the cruelty of that decision is just, it's hard to process.
So what did that look like for the families living there?
The documents from the time are heartbreaking. They were given almost no notice, and then they were forced to watch the bulldozers roll in, systematically destroying their homes, their churches, everything they had built to clear the ground for the Catalina racetrack.
Wow.
Claire, huge issue with this part of the podcast.
What is it?
The Gullies in South Katoomba. That's a real problem. And that's not Notebook LM's fault. That's Google Gemini's fault. But to me, I just thought, I can't trust this.
The people who have trained these artificial intelligence models think that what audiences want is to hear computer-generated voices having feelings. I don't think they do.
I don't think they do either. And it does make me wonder about the bubble that these people work in. Silicon Valley is obviously in California. The sound of this AI podcast is quite clearly modeled on the sort of Southern Californian sound of NPR. To me, the sound of this show reflects the world that the people who work at these tech companies live in. But by sort of foisting that on the rest of us, there's an arrogance to that, I think.
It's interesting too, because podcasting is a relatively new medium. This was the great disruption to radio. The oldest broadcast medium, of course, had been around for 100 years and had developed all its own forms, formal voices, correct pronunciation, lots of perfectly enunciated consonants. And then podcasting came along and blasted that all away. And what we learned about audiences is actually they wanted to hear natural voices, candid conversations, They didn't need newsreaders to sound like this anymore.
Yeah, sure.
And what human audiences responded to in podcasting, I think, is natural, authentic voices.
Mm.
And now AI models are aping that to create products in audio that have no humans involved at all.
It's very Black Mirror. Another thing I noticed was that I think there's almost an artificial instinct to please as well.
Very much so. They call that hallucination in tools like Google's AI Summary or Gemini, where it gives you the answer it thinks you want. I had an example of this when there were lots of shark attacks happening.
Right.
In Sydney. We were down at the south coast of New South Wales. I Googled the local estuary where we swim. Have there been any bull sharks in this estuary?
Yes.
This was at 1 a.m.
Yeah, sure.
It was a dark night because we were going there the next day.
Yeah.
And it said, yes, there have been bull sharks in this estuary. And when I looked at the links that it was using to give me that answer, they were all related to Queensland or South Africa or somewhere else. So it thought I wanted it to say yes. In fact, I really did not want it to say yes.
Sure.
So it gave me the answer it thought I wanted, and it hallucinated that into being.
Yes. The truth is, there's not a huge amount to talk about in North Katoomba. There's not a lot going on. It's quiet. It's residential. There are some industrial pockets, and there's a beautiful waterfall on one side of town. There's one cafe, and there's a gin distillery, and there's an op shop. Instead of just sort of saying, look, no, I can't do that. Or you've asked for 15 minutes, I can give you 5. The fact that it just kind of padded out the podcast with a lot of information that wasn't really connected to North Katoomba at all made me feel good about the work that we do here. And it made me feel good about the values that we have here when it comes to reporting the news to maybe revealing a shocking injustice.
One of the interesting things about audio as a medium, especially in this new, very warm, kind of candid era of podcasting, is that it's very emotional. You want to laugh along with the podcast hosts. You want to feel like you're in the club with them. You want to be outraged by, for example, when Hedley Thomas tells you that a woman's been murdered and the cops didn't care in one of his long-form investigations, like, for example, The Teacher's Pet. So for a fake podcast to be trying to push those same emotional buttons feels ultra manipulative.
It does. And it doesn't work. I think the ability to write in a way that elicits real buy-in from a listener is a distinctly human attribute. Coming up with stories that elicit real human emotion is best left to us humans.
This is relevant now because this is not just a tool that we're using in our living rooms or on the treadmill to inform us about something. AI podcasts are being published by real publishers who are making money from them, and that seems to be their main goal. The Hollywood Reporter, which is a venerable news source employing lots of real journos in America, did an article about this. This is a paragraph from that article.
The company is able to produce each episode for $1 or less, depending on length and complexity, and attach programmatic advertising to it.
It referenced the company there. That's Inception Point AI. That's a company run by a woman named Janine Wright. She was previously a senior executive at a very established podcasting company called Wondery. Wondery is actually famous for making beautiful handmade human podcasts, isn't it?
Teaming up with the LA Times, they made Dirty John. They are the team behind Dr. Death, widely seen as one of the best podcast distributors. Inception Point AI's way of creating podcasts isn't actually too different to how I created my podcast on North Katoomba. They go to AI for script generation. They dump the script into a voice-to-text tool. They hit a button and bang, you've got your podcast. The companies say that it takes them about an hour to produce a podcast with very little human involvement.
And they say in that Hollywood Reporter article that they choose generic topics that people might be Googling, like, for example, whales.
Yes, that's right.
So they churn out an episode about blue whales, 20 people listen, they hear some ads, and Inception Point AI makes money.
For them, that's a win.
So one way that we could respond to this, being emotional human beings, is go, cool, no worries, you guys do that, we'll do what we do, real journalism, handmade audio productions, and we'll have faith that our audience wants this.
Yes.
What's the other way to think about it?
Cry in the shower. I mean, to be totally frank, to me, that's insulting. I think that this company clearly isn't looking at audiences as audiences. They're looking at them as numbers in a spreadsheet. And they think, well, if we can get 20 people to listen to one of these podcasts, then we've done our job and we've made our company money. They're not really thinking about their audience as people.
It really reminded me of when you get into a lift in a shopping centre, or you're shopping on a quiet Wednesday where you can actually hear the music that the shopping centre is playing. It's often Muzak, which we all know is anodized or stripped back versions of real songs. So you might hear Nirvana's Smells Like Teen Spirit in a lift played on something that sounds like the Glockenspiel.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It's a joke now, Muzak. It's a byword for something kind of cheap and tacky and cynical.
Yes.
It's kind of like that, isn't it?
Yes. Muzak itself is a corruption of a lovely idea that music can be wallpaper, essentially, but it can be beautiful wallpaper. One of the pioneers of wallpaper music was French composer Eric Satie, who was active in France at the turn of the last century, who very intentionally wrote music to create a mood. Satie was famously an eccentric man. There are stories that he would attend soirees or events in Paris where his music was being played. It wasn't being performed. It was just being played in the background to set a mood for the event. And he would walk through the crowd, and if he noticed people listening to his music, to stop and appreciate it because it was very beautiful music, he would hit them with his umbrella and say, don't listen to the music. You're just meant to be enjoying yourself. Just let the music have sort of wash over you. Don't listen to it. So it's sort of this idea of like subliminal music, which is actually, as an artistic statement, it's a really interesting thing to do. But then, like you said, that sort of quite pure and interesting idea was eventually hijacked and turned into a big business idea that we all need to have the Girl from Ipanema playing in every elevator around the world.
Thanks, Jasper.
Thank you.